Good morning, everybody.
Boogie,
you wanted to come on today's episode. Can you tell us why?
It's because today is Relationship Day.
Relationship Day.
And I'm part of a three-way relationship.
With Momos?
With Momos.
I know you guys talk to your dogs like this too. Don't even deny it.
Who has a dog language?
Who has their dog's language that they speak with their dog?
It's called boogie language.
It's boogie, and it's not a language. It's
language. Yeah.
Like sandwich, but language.
Boogie, do you want to teach them something from Boogie-cabulary?
Boogie-cabulary. Spell-cabulary.
K-A-B-O-O L-E-R-I.
Cabulary.
Cabulary.
Boogie-cabulary.
Boogie-cabulary. Do you want to teach them a boogie-cabulary word?
He just did.
Boogie-cabulary. Okay.
Boogie-cabulary.
So today's Relationship Day. Let's say good morning.
Good morning to everyone. Okay, apologize if we don't get you, but Andy, Daisy, Emily, Tina, Courtney, Kayla, Brandy, Sammy, Amanda, Veronica, Heather Draper, Amanda Morn. Woo!
And whoever else has privacy notifications. Good morning, good morning. Okay, so...
Okay,
all
you
right.
wanted to come up,
Thank
and now
you
want to
so much for adding value and for teaching a new word.
Remember that, boogie-cabulary. There's going to be a spelling bee later.
So you know, these conversations, relationship conversations, are a part of a 6-part series.
Which was originally going to be 2 parts.
Yeah, but we figured that, you know, each one takes quite a bit of time because we share some stories, we give some opinions, and, you know, we get carried away. But hey, that's what this show is sometimes about. It's about entertainment as well, and, you know, just sharing with you a part of our life and our experiences with hopes that, you know, you will find value in it and you'll take it out to your own life and do something great with it. So, like we said, we are no relationship gurus. However, we are relationship goals. And not to toot my horn, but that being said, like, look, I have not studied relationships, right? Though I do believe that life is all about the human experience. So anything that you do in life is related to relationships.
Here's the thing. We've not studied. But from the day you're born, you begin creating relationships, whether you know it or not. But then it's a matter of how do I evolve through relationships, and how do I show up as a person in relationships? Always it starts with yourself, right? If I talk poorly to myself, if I have a poor relationship with myself, I cannot expect to have a good relationship with anybody else, significant other, friend, family, acquaintance, business partner, anyone.
All relationships, good or bad, start and end with you, 100%. However, when I meant that, like, we're not relationship gurus, like, we haven't put any, like, relationship books yet.
We don't have
or courses or that sort of thing, right? So do know that everything that we're talking about in this episode, yes, there is. Of course, you know, we tell you the truth always. This is our obligation and promise to you. However, it's from our own personal experience.
Personal experience is the best teacher, though.
100%. 100%.
Wait, personal experience is the best teacher if you are good at self-analysis.
Yeah. Theory alone is not going to get you any far.
You can know all the shit. How many people know how to eat well? You can know everything.
How many struggling nutritionists are out there? How many fat personal trainers are out there? Right? It's because it's a matter of, you know, execution, not knowledge or information, as a matter of fact. Information is all around us, but why is this country morbidly obese? Not because we're lacking information and knowledge. That's because we're lazy as shit.
Or we don't apply, or we're too stubborn, or our egos get in the way, or
undisciplined to not follow through, right? Like you think that if you did good for one day, your body is going to change. Bitch, please. If you're in the inner circle, you would love today's video if you haven't watched it already with regards to today's intention. But anyway, speaking of relationships, so, something that we always say is that vulnerability is sexy, right?
I'm sorry, Sergeant's trying to like eat an ant or something. That's the cutest thing.
Yeah, I think he ate it.
He did.
So, vulnerability is sexy, and being vulnerable is uncomfortable. However, being comfortable with being vulnerable whenever you have something vulnerable to share because it came up is literally like one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself.
It's one of the greatest acts of courage that you can have, is being vulnerable.
Yeah, it gives you permission to set yourself free. And I think as women, and I noticed it, with coaching a lot of women, speaking with my mom, who's very dear to my heart. We talk every single day. Or just like, hearing stories in general, women are always giving, and especially mothers, because they're so used to putting others in front of them and, giving to others, whether it's their kids, their significant other, or whatnot. They feel as if they always have to seem strong, like nothing can touch them.
They don't need help.
Right. They don't need help. They would literally fail for decades before trying to seek help. Hopefully one day they will. Right? But they will spin around in circles because that's just how most women operate. If you know at least one woman in your life who acts that way, then drop an emoji just so that we know that you can relate to what we're talking about. But women in general, we're like a do-it-yourself kind of people, and I can only help but to assume that if you're either a single mom or if you're in a gay relationship, you will take even more responsibilities with regards to do-it-yourself kind of things. And of course, something that we always say is how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So imagine if you have this persona of, I'm in charge of getting everything done, I take care of everybody, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's going to be extremely uncomfortable for you to be vulnerable and to break down. And that's why, and this is not to bring down therapy by any means, because I used to go to therapy, but there's so many people who go to therapy on such a regular basis and they don't actually make progress in their lives because they're seeking validation instead of opening up and being vulnerable. Most people are so focused on seeking validation instead of opening up and being vulnerable, and that's why they never give themselves permission to be set free, right? Vulnerability will set you free, okay? So something that's really important with regards to any relationship, okay? Especially an intimate relationship, is to be vulnerable when needed and to talk about your feelings, like on an open basis, right? So what are examples of some vulnerable feelings?
I got a feeling.
Let's say jealousy, for example.
Ooh.
Lack of trust is another one.
Feelings.
Lack of confidence.
Yeah. Feeling ashamed, feeling embarrassed, feeling sad, feeling hurt, feeling cheated, feeling happy, feeling loved, feeling cared about, feeling embrace.
Yeah. Feeling as if you're not loved enough.
But,
Feeling as if you're not being paid attention to.
But the main thing here is good feelings are great. It's easy to express good feelings.
Right.
It's easy to express good feelings. More often than not. Some people just have a hard time in general.
Especially in the Instagram era.
Okay. But feelings, I don't want to call them bad, but they feel negative, right? When we feel them, they're not comfortable.
Painful.
Yeah. Are harder to express because either maybe it shows some kind of weakness, or we are concerned more about how we're going to make the other person feel if we say how we feel, which is really unfortunate. And this is also why we've talked about before how it's really important to be yourself from day one, because then there's nothing hidden. Then the expectation is set that you're going to be honest and upfront from the beginning. And then, you know, it's like we hold in these feelings, and I think we're guarded. I think often we're guarded. A lot of people have been hurt or cheated or wronged, and they feel guarded, or, you know, maybe they were mistreated by a parent, and so they feel like they have, you know, we've got to put up this wall. People, you know, a lot of people have proven themselves untrustworthy, and so how do we know we can trust them? How do we know I can give part of myself to you is kind of a scary thing, right? So oftentimes we suppress until we feel more comfortable, but then at that point we've made a habit of suppressing that we don't ever share, because now the pattern is going to be different. So if you start a relationship suppressing any kind of feelings, maybe with good intentions, because you don't want to be hurt again, maybe you were hurt in the past, you know, you don't want to give too much too soon, or whatever, you suppress and then you make a habit of that. It's like when you text somebody all the time in the beginning of a relationship, and you text and you message and you call and you talk all the time, and then it's like all of a sudden if somebody were to stop talking, you're like, wait, are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong? And you start making these assessments. Why? Because there's a pattern interrupt. Because the pattern changed. So now if you've suppressed feelings and you haven't talked about them, and then you decide you want to start talking about them, you've changed a pattern. And now you might be considering, well, what are they going to think subconsciously? You're probably not even like aware that you're thinking this, but subconsciously you're like, if I change that pattern and start expressing my feelings, they're going to think that something's different. It is. You haven't expressed your feelings and now you want to. And it's okay. Like, we're just so weird with change. But if you communicate and if you express your feelings, it clears up any of those things you could be thinking. And it's all about transparency. Hey, I've been hesitant to share my feelings because XYZ. I know that I haven't shared them in the past, but there's something that I want to share with you because it will, I think, make me feel better, make our relationship better. Boom! That's how you open it. Now the door is open. You walk through it, and you get to share.
I can tell you from my own personal experience with my relationship with Erin, and how it has only grown like stronger and stronger with time, is the fact that since day one, regardless of what individually we each went through or as a unit, we never kept away or held back feelings when we were feeling something uncomfortable.
For long enough to do permanent damage to a relationship. You have held in something, but eventually it had to come out. Had you held that in for longer and longer and longer, it would have ruined a relationship.
Yeah, because sometimes when you have a feeling, and this is why it's always important to know yourself. Like, if it's a complicated situation, you might have a period where self-analysis is required, right? Where you analyze yourself and you're like, am I the only one in this? Like,
first, you analyze yourself first.
And you're like, am I being the faulty one? Like, does this need to be brought up? However, your gut will never lie to you. Your intuition will never lie to you. And, something that I always say to anybody that I've ever had the pleasure of coaching is always follow your gut feelings. Anytime I made a big decision and I followed my gut, the universe has always delivered.
And the more scared you are, the more real it probably is.
Yep, 100%.
And the more necessary it is, and the more change it will create to your benefit.
So, sometimes you have to give it a little bit of time, like maybe a couple of days or a couple of weeks to like really speak to yourself and just like analyze, like, is this thing that I'm going through, is this my own,
is this a me thing, or is this a you thing, or an us thing?
Right, exactly. But for the most part, I think that most things are pretty clear. I think it'll be cool if we can share with them from our own experiences, like some stories with regards to some uncomfortable feelings that we had to discuss throughout our relationship, as it evolved in order to bring us closer together, right? So anytime I ever got in a vulnerable conversation in front of Erin, and for us it happens on a very regular basis, but
which it should.
Right. But what we're gonna highlight are some incredibly vulnerable, almost turning points into our relationships that grew us even stronger and stronger.
I forgot how to do my hair.
That's all right. I think it'll be important if we share it with you guys. But I remember the first time we got vulnerable is when you and I met, right? You were just about to get married.
Yeah, I was going to be married in a few weeks.
Yeah. And I mean, when we started seeing each other, we fell for one another instantly. I don't know if it ever happened to any of y'all, but it's it was just a force of nature. You couldn't really describe it. But of course, it was a very sticky situation because she was just about to get married. So
and you had
I was married too.
You had just gotten married not that long before.
Right.
That our story is really unique and it's pretty cool. And I mean, regardless, we all have pieces of life that we've gone through that we know our hearts through every situation. Mm-hmm. And intuitively, when you're doing something that's not right and when you're doing something that is well-intended and right? And there's no rule book on life. So every single day, you have to take it as it comes, right? And some shit in life gets sticky with relationships, with business, with family, whatever it is. And so our entire story will be in a book. But, at that point, yes, I want you to continue your story, but you had recently gotten married and I was engaged to be married in literally a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So, we've decided that, we knew that we felt very hard for each other and it was very mutual from day one. We were both very honest about the situation.
Yeah, literally day one.
Yeah. However, due to the circumstances, right, where we had made commitments, sometimes in life you have to follow through with your commitments, but always, like I said, listen to your gut. So we knew that we came to each other's life for a reason. However, we've decided, that it would be the right thing to, step away from each other's life as lovers, just to make sure that whatever decision we end up making, just to separate, to assess the situation and to really follow our hearts. So there was a 3-month period where we didn't talk to one another. No, it was 3.
It was 2. I remember very clearly.
It was 3.
Felt like 3 years.
Yeah, it was hard. So, it's like, when you fall in love with somebody and it doesn't matter what you do, like you always think about them. You try to wear certain clothes that remind you of them.
Every song, like when you're in the beginning of a relationship, it's like the infatuation feelings where it's like every song reminds you of them. Oh, this thing that you ate. Oh, you guys ate that together. It makes you think of them, or different clothes and memories. Yeah.
So I remember that, when we were taking a break, like when I met Erin, like I was always, I was already on my self-discovery journey, and I was like on the uprise, right? I was very focused on myself. This is when I really, like, I would say, started loving myself and feeling confident with my ability to be my best self. However, there was something about Erin, like she catalyzed everything else that happened in my life. So, when she stepped away temporarily, like
I had to break her heart.
Nothing felt the same. So, like, in order for me to try to be my best self, I will, recreate memories that involved her. So, like, whether it was songs, whether it was like things that I wore and whatnot. But I remember there was one day, back in the day, I was living in New Jersey, and I had a nasty commute to New York, like 2 hours each way. So basically like a train ride to a subway, whatever. And, I got on the train to go to work, and I was just like, man, like I just woke up that day, and like the feelings were so intense. They were always intense, but like it was magnified that day. So of course, I wore something that reminded me of her to feel as much of her as I could. And I listened to music, and she had blocked me off of social media because she's like, I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you because I'm going to be distracted.
It sounds really harsh. So
no, right.
I mean, here's what happened. I got married because I even had a conversation with this dude, right? Yeah. And we talked about it, and nothing was a secret, and everything was out in the open, and we actually had an agreement of how we were going to do our relationship. Yeah. I just broke the rules by doing it before we actually got married, because the rule was we were going to have an open relationship after we got married, and I was like, it's fine, because we're going to do it anyways. So anyways, so then I had a conversation, and we were like, if we don't get married, we'll always say what if. So we got married anyways, and then 3 months later, we had it annulled. So I think I broke the record for shortest marriage, but it's best for all parties. However, within that 3 months, this is why it was 2 months long that we didn't talk, is because for about the first month we still did, and I had to say, look, I made a commitment, and I have to give this a fair chance, or shame on me, because that's what I committed to, right? So then I said, like, I broke your heart, I broke my heart at the same time.
Right.
Like, I would do the same shit. I would wear things that reminded me of her. And eventually, David was his name. You can't even look him up, because there's a fucking 1,000 Davids. You want to know his last name? Miller. There's also 1,000 fucking David Millers, so good luck. Anyways, so, what happened was, like, he could tell, and it was just, then we had that same conversation again, and after a couple months, when I said, like, I only can give it a fair chance if I eliminate you from everything, because I will still think about you, even if you're nowhere. I will still think about you.
But back to the vulnerability. So there was one day where the feelings were like magnified by like times 1,000, right? So I was like, you know what? Like, I know I'm not supposed to, and like, me, like, not speaking with her was out of a symbol of respect to her word, right? So, like, I don't want to go against her word, but that specific day, I was like, you know what? Like, fuck this shit. I have to tell her how I feel right now, and that I miss her so much. So, I sent her a message on Facebook.
I didn't respond
because she blocked me. She blocked me on her phone. So I'm like, okay, well. She blocked me on Instagram. Back in the day, I used to have Snapchat. She blocked me on Snapchat. And I know that it's with love, right?
It was with a fair shot at what I had committed to.
Yes, and I respected her, which is why I took a step back, though she was always in my mind. But that one day, I got really vulnerable, and I sent her a very vulnerable message. And I'm like, look, I want you to know that like not a day goes by without me thinking about you, and I miss you so much. And there's some about today. I'm seeing like, you know, this bird and whatever. I get woo-woo. So I think you guys know that by now, but you know, I sent her a real vulnerable message. I'm like, I just have to like let it off my heart, and then, you know, I'm not going to expect anything from her, but it'll make me feel like I released something. So, you know, that is one example of us having a very
I saw the message,
vulnerable
but when
moment.
you're not friends with somebody, they can't see when you see it unless you accept it. So I saw it, but I never accepted it, and I was like, shit.
Yeah. Also, I want to bring up something because it reminds me of that like time period in my life when like I had such strong feelings for Erin, but like there was a part of me that was like, you know what, she's committed to this guy. Like she's on the other side of the country. Like we're 3,500 miles away. Like what are the odds of like us ever, whatever, right? So I was like, okay, well,
What are the odds?
you know, I was in my journey right back then, and you know, being immature, I was trying. I also had attempted on the weekends to try to get her out of my system.
Are you guys enjoying this? This turned into story time with Erin Sarit.
So I was trying to get her out of my system, and you know, I was dating a couple of girls, one of which
She, in the words that she put it,
one of which I kind of really liked. I kind of really liked. Because again, like she had similar values to us. She was very attractive as well. She was extremely career oriented. She was like 15 years older than me. So she was like way more developed in her career. And I was just like starting out. So we were at different phases of our lives, though I truly did like her. So I was like, you know what? Like, I may have a fair chance with her. So I took that girl kind of seriously. But then, like you said, like following somebody's patterns, right? I lived in New Jersey, she lived in New York, and, you know, I would see her like at any time that, you know, maybe sometimes on the weekends, or like if I had a late night at work, I would just stay over at her place. So it's like maybe once or twice per week, that sort of thing. But you know, like at the beginning it was really cute, and I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe I'll be able to get Erin out of my system, right? However, like she's always in the back of your head, just like watching you, like watching me from 3,500 miles away. But I was like hopeful, right? But then after like a month, like her patterns started changing, you know, like I was being very cute with her, like good morning baby, whatever, and like she would like completely disregard me for an entire day, and I'm like, okay, now I'm being disrespected, right? So, you know, I kind of let it pass by, and you know, I got vulnerable with her, right? After a couple of days of her doing this shit, I was like, hey, you know what, like I noticed that something's off, and I'm just trying to wonder if I ever did something to make you whatever. And I also told her, we had a conversation, and I was like, look, you know, I told you this, that, you know, 2 months ago, I fell for the love of my life, and she ended up going to her husband. So like, I'm just sick and tired of being hurt. So like, if you don't foresee this going any further, because I do, then please just let me know, and let's stop playing these games, right? I got super vulnerable with her, and she's like, look, I get it. I'm developing this course, blah, blah, blah. And I think it was her just not being fully committed to what I was, what I knew I deserved. And her maybe just like being blocked a little bit. However, like even with somebody like that, I was extremely vulnerable, right? However, like nothing was ever the same like you. And then
I cannot see if you guys are commenting at all. We can't see any comments.
And then I was like, you know what? Like she did that shit for like 2-3 weeks, and then I was like, you know what? Like her new pattern is now becoming her old pattern. I'm like, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, and I'm being like a little somebody's sex toy, and quite frankly, doesn't make me feel good. So I just told her one day, again, I got vulnerable. I'm like, you know what? Like, I have a lot of respect for you. You already know how attracted I am to you and how I look up to you, right? Because she was like advanced in her career and we're like in the same industry and she's 15 years ahead of you. Like, you know, there's a lot of admiration there too. So I told her, I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm making a lot of sacrifices for this and it just seems as if we're not on the same page. So in order for you to do your own thing, I'm just gonna like, you know, let go and, you know, just do me. And at that point I was like, you know what, Sarit, just stop it. Like nothing is gonna get Erin out of your system. Like just get real with yourself. And
But you know what I noticed in that story?
what?
Is to be vulnerable, you have to have a certain level of confidence.
Yes.
And you have to know what you will tolerate and what you won't. And you have to not have you will have a fear. You will always at some point in your life, I'm guarantee you have already, you will have a fear of what somebody else will think about what you say or how they're going to respond to what you say or what you request. Now, courage is acting in the face of fear. You have to have courage. And to have courage, there's a certain level of confidence that helps you to have that courage. And when we talk about fat loss and weight loss and developing a body that you feel amazing in and overcoming and achieving this fitness journey gives you a certain level of confidence that a lot of other things can't. Mm-hmm. And so obviously we are in this industry helping people make transformations because for one, we're really good at it. For two, we've had our own journey so we can relate 100%. Mm-hmm. We're still on it. We're just advanced.
Yeah.
Right? I would actually say expert.
Yes.
And, you know, the other thing is that we know how much of a catalyst it is to transforming and developing the rest of your life the way you want it to be.
Yep, 100%. Had I not been at that stage with my body, there's no way in hell I could have spoken up with such clarity, vulnerability, but also being so bold with regards to what I'm not willing to tolerate with somebody who's 15 years older than me.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way in hell. Like, you know, I took the bull by its horns and I was just like, I'm letting it go.
Sarit
like,
used an English phrase correctly.
But you know, then my birthday came around too, and we were having a celebration, and it was really, really fun. And I remember, you know, like coming back from the celebration and, you know, telling my...
Oh, I can see the comments here. I can't see him on the phone.
Telling my ex-wife, who's like one of the closest people, you know, to me on the planet, up to today. And Nicole, if you're watching this, I will always love you and I'll always be grateful for you. But, you know, I was telling her, I was like, you know what? Like, I was like, man, today was just such a good day. Like, we're both just like in the kitchen, just, you know, eating cake. Eating the birthday cake that my mom sent me and just talking, and I was like, but you know what? Like, if I had one wish for this birthday, is that, you know, I would have much preferred, like, if there was one thing that I could change is, you know, have Erin be a part of it too. Like, I felt like a part of me was missing. It's really weird to see us in the back, by the way.
I know. I'm just trying to see your guys' comments because we can't see them on the phone, so you're gonna have to just focus.
Okay, got it. So, you know, I was telling her, I was like, man, like the only thing that would make this birthday like the most perfect thing ever is having Erin here. So I went to bed that night because I had to wake up at like 3:30 in the morning to catch a train to go to New York. Yes, it was miserable. And I was like, oh man, because I had a couple of drinks and I was like, whatever. So I remember going to bed, and back in the day, like I used to sleep with the phone right next to me. Such a terrible habit, I know. But I texted you again. This time I texted her. I'm like, she blocked me. I just have to get this off my chest because I can't stop thinking about her. I was like, hey, you know, it was my birthday weekend and we had so much fun, but there was only one thing missing, and that was you. And then 3 days later, one day I was coming home from work, and I got a message, and I got a call from her. My heart dropped. It was
Talk about getting vulnerable. Now it's my turn.
Yes.
Now it's my turn to get vulnerable. Yeah, because that shit was hard. Imagine, like, after a couple months of not talking to her. I feel like something's happening in the comments, by the way. We're talking about lesbian hate, and Brandy's
Baby, but it doesn't matter right now. It doesn't matter because we're being distracted.
They're important, and what they have to say matters.
They have, but you have to...
And Brandy's getting her guns to go kill somebody or something. I don't know.
You don't have to kill anyone, because everything happened for a reason. It's all good.
Anyways, so I had to get vulnerable, because imagine, okay, so I'm in this relationship now where I'm sacrificing a marriage that, let's be honest, like, him and I, we made a really good partnership. Like, we never argued. We talked about things. He taught me a lot. I'm very grateful for him. I would say one of the most important takeaways that I had from him is say what you mean and mean what you say. Don't, if you're not feeling happy, if you're feeling a certain way, say it. And I owe that to him. But you know, I was sacrificing now this marriage because I was going to call Sarit, because him and I had a conversation where he said, you just have to do this. You have to go this direction. You'll never know. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful, and I was so blessed to have somebody who was willing to let me go, and I truly believe it's because he loved me. And he was a very logical person in the sense that if you love something and it wants to go, you have to let it go. And so, you know, he's married now, I hope happily, which is great. But, you know, I had to get vulnerable in a sense that I didn't know where she was. I didn't know if she was in a relationship with anybody. I didn't know if she hated me because I hadn't talked to her for 2 months. I didn't know if she, like, all these things are going through my mind. What if she's not available? Now I'm leaving this marriage to call this girl who maybe isn't available, and I could potentially lose both things. But she was worth making that sacrifice, and I had to get vulnerable. Him and I called her on speakerphone.
Yep.
And he was like, look, you have to know what's happening and what conversations we had. And, you know, for one, you have to know what she is doing to our relationship for you, and that potential is for your relationship as well. So he's very logical, where he's like, hey, if she's leaving me for you, keep that in mind, because she could leave you for somebody else, right? Like, we've all thought that before, right? But at the same time, he said, you also have to understand that clearly you mean something to her, because she's willing to, like, literally leave a marriage. That's a pretty decent marriage. It just felt like we were more roommates and friends than we were partners, you know? So anyways, that was where I got
something
vulnerable.
else that he said is like, look, I'm about to give up my marriage to somebody who I really love and care about, because you know, I believe that she loves you more than she loves me. Like, you know, she has not been the same ever since she has met you. Now, do know that if I give you to her, I do expect you to take care of her like I would.
She's trying to make me cry.
And he was like, are you willing to do you feel like you're able to take on that responsibility? And I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely. Like, I would do anything for that girl. Do you guys think that she's a big part of my why for being better? 100%. So we reunited, and it was like better than ever, right? And that same weekend, we actually had a conversation, and we're like, fuck it. Like, we love our lives when we are together so much. Like, bi-coastal is going to be really, like, I mean, yes, we can make anything work, but why don't we just, like, move to SoCal? Because we both loved the sunshine and the warm weather, and both Portland and Jersey are cold and rainy and whatever.
Yeah, but
we also love the lifestyle. But that weekend, we made a decision to...
Yeah, and then that's like, we can leave like the rest of the story for another day, because this is about vulnerability. But yeah, it was, you originally weren't going to move, And then we had to have more vulnerable conversations.
Yeah, which I kind of want to get to as well, just to show you guys that vulnerable conversations don't always have initially a positive outcome. So this had like, you know, the beautiful like rainbows and butterflies outcome, right?
It was hard as shit though for everybody involved. It was like,
it required a lot of freaking change. There were so many changes, but we were like
hurt feelings, tears, hard conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the next conversation was another vulnerable conversation that required some kind of self-assessment first on my end, and a lot of frustration too. And I feel like those are I remember that I had to build myself up to it. I had to prepare because it was kind of like releasing toxins, not releasing love. And I'm gonna like be vulnerable, you know, because of love. I'm gonna be vulnerable because I'm gonna stick up to my own boundaries and set of rules and core values. No, the money situation.
Oh, no, I'm talking about like when we moved. So you're talking about like a couple years down the road.
Right.
Okay, this is a couple years down the road.
Yeah.
Another vulnerable conversation. Right. Yeah, for sure. But the most vulnerable and hardest conversations are the ones that have the best impact on your growth.
Yeah. And I'll never forget that day. I mean, looking back, it was such a blessing because financially it brought us together. In a sense that we were now very set on a goal. Now, of course, when we started our own business, like we both were on the same page with regards to commitments, and I'm fully aware. However, I felt, you know, an extreme level of stress, and I felt some kind of lack of responsibility on my partner's end.
Me.
Yeah, you were in a different financial situation than me due to poor habits.
Yeah, we talked about this.
It's like, I don't care how much money you have in your bank account. I care how you think about money and what are your habits with regards to that. And our habits were so different back then. But, you know, ever since then, like our core values with regards to money and what we want to do with it has become the same. I'm like, I feel like I have all this pressure from the business that like we're bootstrapping, starting up. I mean, you know, basically from zero. I'm doing everything that I can to work on the outside, personal training people so that I can, you know, make the business run, right? And I feel like you're not pulling up your weight, aside from the fact that she had financial obligations to get herself out of debt. I'm like, I feel like you're making me drown. And it was such a hard conversation. But like that sparked the fire under your ass.
It made me feel like shit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck, I need to make some changes because I don't ever want to feel what I feel when I make her feel a certain way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you make somebody feel a certain way and you know you're responsible for that, you kind of feel like garbage, right? So that conversation was necessary in order for me to make some moves.
Yeah, and her intentions were always good, right? Because it's very clear that we love each other very much, and our love for one another like only keeps on growing. However, you guys, I don't care who it is that you're talking to. Actions always speak louder than words, right?
Forever, 100%.
Right? And that's why when you go into this inner circle, I'm like, what are you committed to? And you show me every single day. Because it doesn't matter what you say you want to do or all these things. What matters is what you actually fucking do. So Erin said she wanted to do these things, but I'm like, dude, like you're making me fucking drown, and I feel like I have all this weight on my shoulders. Like you need
That's
to.
That's not
like,
how the conversation went.
Right,
like you're being extra dramatic about it, but like she didn't
well,
yell
of
at
course
me.
I was very gentle because I had to put it in a words where I'm not attacking her. Because you guys know when I get passionate, like it could be like the most incredible thing. Where I'm speaking to your soul, but it can also feel like I'm attacking somebody. If you know it's clear that something has to change. So, you know, like I have this feeling in my stomach the entire time, and you know, I was basically just telling her that, and you know, it was such a struggle and a release that we needed to separate ourselves from one another for the rest of the evening. Like it was a Saturday night. I was like, I just need to go and do a fucking workout. Like I don't want to be like in this environment.
That was a moment where we didn't want to be around each other.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the most blunt way described.
It's because we knew that in the moment we both hurt one another, but for a positive reason down the line.
And we needed to do our own things to set ourselves in a better state. That's it. So I mean, that conversation though flipped us.
Yeah.
Into we were already going a positive direction, but there was something holding us back from being really truly successful. And I believe that moment, there have been many moments that have been boosters to what has led us to where we are today. And I believe there will be many more moments that will be difficult, that will be boosters to get us to where, we aspire to be. But, the hardest conversations that you have to have are the ones that lead to the most growth. And sometimes it's just within yourself. And if you have to have a hard conversation with somebody else, then that leads to growth as you, within you guys as a unit. And this can be with anything. Like we've had to have this conversation, like difficult conversations with other people as a couple. We've had to have difficult conversations with each other, with ourselves. Are you the shitstorm? Like, is it your issue that you need to work through? And it gets easier as you practice it. I know you want to say something.
Yeah.
The other day we were in the gym and I said, hey, I can feel that you're feeling a little bit spicy, but for one, I want to say, I know that it could be a little bit of me. I'm not sure if it's both. I just want to put it out there into the world that this is what I'm feeling. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I'm not going to put a blame on her in case it's something that has to do with me, but it's important I verbalize it so that we're very clear on what I'm feeling. And she said, you know what, I am feeling. She's like, maybe it's some of both. I am feeling whatever way. But it's like the more you are able to speak what you feel, the easier it gets. And the more familiar your significant other becomes with it, because it's normal.
Let me tell you something, you guys. By the end of the day, you're the problem and you're the solution. And the reason why this journey of, transforming your physical being is so important is because it's the vessel to everything else that you want in life. Because if you're unable to have these tough conversations with yourself, right? Like why are you always caving in to the cookie that somebody offers you? Or why are you always like letting yourself get away with not having a workout? Like, unless you understand and are able to accept and follow through with these tough conversations with yourself, there's no way in hell you'll be able to accept and have these tough conversations with somebody else, right? And that is, I think, a huge roadblock for so many women in their journey. And how many of you guys who have had the pleasure of working with us, I've told you so many times that like your problem is not an eating problem, it's a boundary problem. You don't know how to fucking set boundaries, you're not disciplined, you're right, you make excuses and you just don't follow through. So you have no confidence, but you need to get over yourself, right? You need to be hard on yourself, you need to have a hard conversation and say, okay, like I've been a piece of shit to myself because I've been letting other people spin me like on their finger, or I've been setting way too low standards, and when my alarm goes off at 6 a.m. and it's time to wake up and go work out, I sleep in. Like, no more of that fucking bullshit. Like, you need to first...
It starts with you.
It starts with you and it ends with you. You need to stand your grounds for your own self. Because here's the thing. Your life is your own fight. And you have to fight your own fight. And you can, be surrounded by others who support you. And, of course, that will make it, like... easier and more comforting. However, if you never own up to your bullshit and face it and overcome it, you're always gonna fucking struggle. And our relationship, and we said it before, only magnifies. That's why a lot of times, a lot of people who are overweight, they're not couples goals. Why? Because they have not set boundaries for themselves, right? They're not disciplined enough to follow through with promises that they make for themselves. They probably don't make promises right? And then there's another unit being brought to this, so it's now magnified. Now, please don't take this wrong. Don't think that I'm saying that fat people are bad, because no, that's not the case, right? However, I'm saying that your body didn't become this way overnight. Your body became a certain way because you followed certain principles, or you followed the wrong principles. You let yourself go. You didn't hold yourself accountable.
You allowed yourself to have low standards.
Yeah. And being distracted by somebody else or by a life change, that's a form of letting yourself have low standards. Lowering your standards in one area of your life because of a change. That happens very often. And that's okay. But remember, it always starts and it always ends up with you. I want to share one last vulnerable conversation that we had, and that was actually the night after we got married. So we got married 2 weeks ago, right? And then on Friday, Shabbat, I'm Jewish, right? So I light the candles for Shabbat every single Friday, and that Friday was very special to me because it was the first Friday that I'm lighting the candles as a wife, right?
Big dealio.
So I felt different. I felt different in my soul, and you always light the candles with me. She's always been extremely supportive, which is beautiful.
Jewish
and after that, we had dinner and we're having a conversation, and I was telling her, I was like, hey, you know what? I've had this thought when I was lighting the candles, and I have to share it with you. It's not uncomfortable, but I feel like I would be holding back something from you if I didn't share it with you. And for us, one of our rules, it's if there's something that we have to discuss, regardless of how uncomfortable it feels, we have to share it with one another. And I was thinking what if you were to leave me for another woman someday? And I told her, it made me sad. It made me really sad, and it brought me fear. I told her, it brought me fear because I was honestly, I don't know. Because you make me whole. She makes my wholer and holy. I was I honestly, don't know what I would do if I was to lose you. And then, we had this vulnerable conversation, and it only brought us closer together. it gave me some reaffirmation that, she's not gonna leave me for another woman. And I guarantee each and every one of y'all who are either in married, in a relationship, whatever, you thought about that at least one time. What if that person was to ever leave me for somebody else? Nobody can tell me that they've always been 100% secure, because no, we all have insecurities. What?
I have to tell you.
What?
It's not that I haven't ever had the thought, because when you see things or when you know about something, you can think about it, right? But I never one time ever actually have had that fear.
That's awesome.
Here's the thing with you, right? But here's why. And here's why also I would never leave her. I know at some point we've talked about this before, we're gonna have some kind of event, some lesbian girl is gonna be ooh, I'm gonna try to play it as a game, right? Let me see if I can get on one of them or whatever. And I have no, I almost laugh, because I'm it would be the most stupid thing in the entire world. I would the thought of any other woman in a romantic relationship makes me grossed out. And I know if this is gonna have a little bit of an arrogant tone, but I don't mean it that way. I truly mean it just with confidence, that the way that we work together, if she ever left me, it's truly, truly her loss. Mm-hmm. And the same with me. If I ever left her, it is 100% my loss. Yeah. So that's why I've never had that fear, is because I know that you know that as well.
Yeah. But it was in the forefront of my head, and I was I'm going to get vulnerable. I'm going to share this with her.
Sometimes you have a thought and then you take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And you consider, what if that actually happened? I've never considered what if that actually happened.
Yeah.
I guess in that moment.
And then we're okay, we talked about it, we let it out. we're now going to like stop talking about it because we're not going to like amplify
Put energy into it.
and amplify by putting energy into it. So like we put out the fire and that's it. But really the point of today's conversation is that, dude, I mean, expressing your feelings with your significant other is extremely important. But by the end of the day, remember, it all starts and it all ends with you. So you have to be very real with yourself first. And you know, improve your relationship with yourself by having the tough conversations. Like, why am I feeling insecure all the time? Is that because my intuition tells me that I need to lose weight and I keep on sabotaging myself every single day? Or maybe I'm feeling this way because I know that, you know, I have this habit that I shouldn't be following through with, but for some reason every single night I keep on disobeying the promises that I make to myself, right? So like it all starts, it all ends with you. So like take the time to assess your feelings with your own self. Set a list of promises to yourself. Now, how you're going to follow through with them, that's a completely other different story. And that's not a part of today's topic. But, you know, when you are in a relationship, being vulnerable with your significant other is going to be something that's extremely important. Because if you are only able to have the soft conversations, the good conversations, surface level, like thinking about the good times, talking about the good times, and when shit goes sideways, like you don't get vulnerable because you don't know how to, then remember,
shitstorm.
It's because of you, but only you're the only person who can fix that. Don't ever try to tell the other person that it's your fault and whatever, because maybe they've done something that wasn't ideal, but you know what? If it bothered you for a certain amount of time and, you know, like it infuriates you, it's because you tolerated it. So you're a part of it, right? You're the problem and you're the solution. So I hope that you guys found some value in today's conversation. I also hope that maybe you found some entertainment or inspiration with regards to your current relationship, or maybe like the goal relationship that you want to create for yourself in time. Speaking of relationships, tomorrow is interview day, and we're going to have the pleasure of interviewing an extreme power couple. They're incredible. If you know anything about CrossFit and the CrossFit Games, we'll have the pleasure of interviewing Alex Parker and Meredith Root. They are couples goals for sure.
Just look them up. Alex Parker and Meredith Root. Like, you see them and you're just like, oh, I'm not going to fuck with those bitches.
Yeah, they're awesome. They have so much talent and they're extremely humble as well. So we're really stoked to have this conversation with them tomorrow. We will drop a link later today. Remember, interview days, the conversation starts at 6 a.m. sharp, okay? So make sure to be there. The Zoom link will be dropped later. Feel free to share this with anybody that you know or will be interested. Tomorrow is going to be a conversation with regards to fitness, weight loss, relationships, and also, let's be real, gay stuff. Tomorrow is a Gay Matters Day.
Yeah, and apparently something happened and there was some kind of gay hate or something like that, and the girls were going off. I'm not really sure if it was a joke or if it was for real, but anyways, other housekeeping things. Biggie wants to show you how he sleeps and snores during the whole episode. Also, we're dropping a load of apparel starting Monday. So this is a pre-order load, not to be confused with premature. And there's going to be a tank top, there's going to be a t-shirt, there's going to be a baseball tee, and there's going to be a hoodie. So there are going to be all the original logo, no fancy stuff yet, but this is pretty fancy. So there's going to be a 2-week period, August 31st to September 13th, yeah. I believe, whatever that Sunday night is. It's going to be pre-order, and you guys will get your stuff in the last week of September. Cool. So then there's that. Today's also day 18 of the In Motion Challenge. So we got 18, 19, 20, 21. 4 days.
4 workouts left unless you already did today's workout. before you can say that, you know what, you're disciplined enough to complete one thing for 21 days. Anybody doing this, you realize how discipline is something that's really hard. Weight loss is simple when you do it right, but weight loss is hard because it requires discipline. It's a daily act. I feel like, hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do us a favor, show us some love, and please hit that subscribe button. If you found today's conversation inspirational, entertaining, or, you know, just powerful in any way, shape, or form, if it added value to you, please do us a favor and share the love, spread the love. Good things are meant to be shared. Remember, you guys, we're on a mission to transform the lives of millions through the same movement, nutrition, and lifestyle habits that have transformed ours. We will catch you all tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pacific time. Bye, guys.